Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. I am back with another NFL video to help you prepare for your fantasy football drafts in 2020. This one, specific to rookie running backs this year, trust or bust. I have a fantastic guest on the show today. We have no video for him because Zoom is not cooperating with OBS, but you will hear his lovely voice. He has said himself that he has a face made for radio, so maybe it's better that we don't have video for him on today's show. From EstablishTheRun.com, Adam Levitan, my old co-host from the Daily Fantasy Edge podcast, is here to talk to us about 5 rookie running backs. And I want to know, Adam, do you trust or bust each one of these guys? So we're going to go down the list. I'm going to talk about their ADPs. We're not talking about in real life if he thinks this guy is a bad player. Fantasy is not about talent all the time. Obviously, a more talented player in an opportune situation will make the best of all worlds things occur. However, when it comes to running backs, it's more about opportunity than talent. So do these rookie running backs, are they in the right spot to excel? Or do they have a lot of headwind with the current world situation with COVID-19, with them not being able to get into the building, with them not being able to work out with their coaches or through minicamp or anything else to get reps with their quarterbacks or their offensive line? And are there veterans that are standing in their way that's going to keep them from a path to volume? So, Adam, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, always a pleasure to be on both YouTube and Twitch. I'm not in these streets enough.
Yeah, we got to get you out into the world, man. I got to get your face out here, too. That's the problem. Maybe next time we'll get Zoom to cooperate with OBS. But right now, it ain't working, but we are. So let's get to the show. The first running back that I need to talk about, is his ADP too high? And that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We're talking about a kid who has a lot of talent and is a very good pass catcher, but they do have an incumbent who did exceptionally well during the playoffs for the last 2 seasons already, knows the playbook, understands the offense. Do you need to know that stuff to be a running back or to be effective? Or is this going to be a situation where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be maybe rolled out a little bit more slowly as the year goes along, and maybe we can't trust him early in the season? Or do you trust that CEH is going to be the guy from jump?
Yeah, will not be the guy from jump, but we're talking about a unique situation here because the Chiefs offense is, and I'm not exaggerating, historically great. So I am not in the business of calling guys busts who are attached to the Chiefs offense, particularly when we have first round draft capital used on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if you go back through and you look at running backs who have first round draft capital attached to them as a rookie, they are almost always used heavily. Now, Chiefs have a luxury. It was a luxury pick for them. He was a 32nd overall pick. They have Damian Williams. Damian Williams is excellent in pass protection. Damian Williams is excellent in the red zone. He's excellent on wheel routes. He does a lot of things really well that coaches like. So it's kind of a luxury pick. So I'm not placing as much impact on the historical data on first round running back usage. Let's put it this way. I'd rather have Damian Williams in the 8th round than Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 2nd round. Doesn't mean I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to bust, but I can't project him for more than 12 to 15 touches out of the gate. And there's a ton of opportunity cost in the 2nd round. So my stance right now is hope Clyde Edwards-Helaire can get to me in the 3rd round or so. If not, I'll just take Damian Williams in the 8th or 9th, and I'll be fine with that.
Yeah, you spoke about the ADP for both of these guys. And like I said, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going at his ADP of 21 right now. So you're not getting him in the 3rd round ever. He's the RB 14 off the board. I've seen places rank him as high as maybe the RB 10 based on the situation in Kansas City's offense being as good as it is. And if he gets 70% of the snaps at running back, I'm saying if he does, then clearly he's going to pay off just like Damian Williams did during the playoff run last year, or like Kareem Hunt did a couple of years ago. My issue with him, because I do not trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be the guy. I don't know if he's going to get over 50%. If he gets over 50%, there's going to be weeks that he smashes and weeks that he doesn't. For best ball, when you don't have to pick those things, great. But if you're playing in a transactional league, a season-long league, and you have to make that decision, and you're drafting him as your RB2, which is kind of where you have to draft him, or your RB1 if you went wide receiver in the 1st round, that's a very tough decision for me to have to make.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much opportunity cost in the 2nd round, and you typically don't want lower floor guys that high in your draft. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's certainly paths to Damian Williams holding the 1A role here for a lot of the first 8 weeks, and that could be trouble if you use a second round pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I totally agree. So for me, it's a bust. I'm passing. I'm not saying he's a bust. Don't go nuts on me in the flipping comments, YouTube. I'm saying that I'm not taking him at his current draft cost. The next guy that we have to talk about is Jonathan Taylor from the University of Wisconsin. He has an ADP right now of 33, so he's a third-round pick, back end of the third round. If you're somebody who's drafting and you have the 8 through 12 spot, you might get a RB1 in the first round. You get somebody in the second round. You might get Jonathan Taylor right there at the RB19 spot coming back. So what are your thoughts, Adam, on this kid? What do you think he can do in this Colts offense? And is Marlon Mack basically just put out to pasture, or is this maybe a 50-50 split between the two of them?
Yeah, so good things on Jonathan Taylor is incredible college production, incredible athletic profile. Like if this was like 2005 or like 1999, Jonathan Taylor would have been like the first overall pick in the draft. Like it would have been no question. However, in today's NFL, we have seen him not be asked to do a ton of pass catching. And when he's done it, he has had some problems with drops. He's also not polished as a pass protector. And they do have Marlon Mack, who is in the final year of his contract, kind of a lame duck, but they do have Marlon Mack. They do have Nyheim Hines, who they've been talking up all offseason as a pass catcher out of the backfield in the same way that Philip Rivers liked to use Austin Eckler, liked to use Denny Woodhead. I don't think that Hines and Mack will maybe have as big a role as people think, but still there's a lot of positive downside here with Jonathan Taylor if he doesn't take the pass game role. I would also say, on a good thing for Jonathan Taylor, offensive line play, I mean, it's just dominant and fits what Jonathan Taylor does really well. Like I think he's going to be very efficient when he gets carries, but if he's sharing time with Marlon Mack, which I think he will, if he's losing pass down reps to Nyheim Hines, we have big problems with Jonathan Taylor. Clearly a far better dynasty asset than season long to me. And in this third, fourth, fifth round is really where I'm looking to attack the wide receiver position, not running back.
Yeah, you've said that you're looking to wait a little bit longer. Obviously, we've talked about the ADP gap between some of these players, and you can see it here with Jonathan Taylor, where his ADP is, as I mentioned before, around 34th overall, and Marlon Mack being down where it is. Now, again, for me, I'm not trusting this ADP gap, and I'm not trusting that he's going to get over 50% of the work. I could see the two of them splitting the work on first and second down. Over under for you. 200 carries for Jonathan Taylor this season. Over under.
That's a good line. I will say, oh God, that's a good line. I'll say under, especially once we factor in, injury downside, which I would, for anybody betting season long props, I think a lot of the books and math don't factor in injury downside enough, but that's a video for another day.
Right. And that's my issue. So for me, I mean, it's going to be a theme for me guys in this video right now. And I don't know if this is based on the current world situation, but I am kind of out on most rookie running backs. So for me, Jonathan Taylor, at least the ones that are being selected pretty early, I would rather take either a wide receiver at those spots, or if I'm forced to go running back, or if my draft strategy for that particular league is to go running back, I'm going to take a guy with a little bit more of a carved out role in the range that these guys are going. Now we're going to drop down to the next guy that we have here, and this is Cam Akers, another player where they spent solid draft capital, did the Rams, on getting this kid from Florida State. He is currently going as the RB25, 49 overall in terms of his ADP, is Cam Akers, but you still got Malcolm Brown there, no matter what you think of Malcolm Brown. He's average, he's this, he's that. And they also spent the same amount of draft capital the year before on Henderson, who looks electric when the ball's in his hand, but couldn't get on the field. I have a major issue. Maybe it's my own stumbling block. Maybe it's my own personal biases. I'm fine with that. But I do not trust McVay at all, ever. So I'm not going to listen to anything he says in terms of coach speak. I'm not going to pay attention to the draft capital, because that doesn't always come into play with who gets the ball in that offense. I do think that there is some positive regression, or just regression to the mean, in terms of that passing game. But for me, is he going to get the snaps? Is he going to get the touches? Because obviously the talent is there for Cam Akers. But is this somebody that you want to hang your hat on? Trust or bust for Cam Akers?
Yeah, so he's starting to go in the 6th round. I've seen it, and I'm probably not taking him, but I can at least see it better there than 3rd round for Jonathan Taylor, or 2nd round for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think they're lower on Darrell Henderson than maybe they've even let on. I mean, God, Darrell Henderson, they played him in the preseason last year. McVay is loath to play anyone he likes in preseason games. They made him play in the preseason last year. Then he doesn't even, I mean, Gurley is hurt and can't play, and they're not even using Darrell Henderson then. They still have Malcolm Brown, as you mentioned, but I don't think Malcolm Brown is too big of a threat. I do think the opportunity will be there for Cam Akers. I'm worried about this offensive line. I'm worried about Jared Goff when he's under pressure, and that happens a lot when he's with this offensive line. So, yeah, Sean McVay being called a fake sharp in some circles. It probably got out of control, the hype on Sean McVay. And now it's starting to come back down. I'm okay with Cam Akers, but again, in this 6th round is really not where I'm targeting the running back position. So I haven't taken Cam Akers on any of my teams. But you asked about opportunity. I think opportunity will actually be there for Cam Akers.
Okay, you think that he's going to be the guy? Let's say 60% of the snaps, right? Like, because you got a 3-headed running back monster there, and we've seen McVay not like rookies outside. If they're not named Cooper Kupp, he's not a fan. At skill positions on offense, right? So he's always leaned more towards the veterans over the last couple of years that we've seen him. So if he puts all of his eggs in that Cam Akers basket, I would be interested to see if that happens. But again, for me, I'm not trusting Cam Akers. You are trusting more of Cam Akers, but you're saying that you're not really looking at a running back in those rounds.
Yeah.
But you think that he's fine.
Yeah.
More so than the other two.
I would not fault anybody. I wouldn't call anybody a donkey for taking Cam Akers in the 6th or 7th round. Not at all. I mean, I would call the Rams donkeys for paying Todd Gurley an absurd amount of money, using a 3rd round pick on Darrell Henderson, then using a 2nd round pick on Cam Akers. I mean, that is just straight donkey. But that's for another day.
Yeah, but Darrell Henderson looks really good because he's got like the hair coming out of the back of the helmet. It's like when he makes moves, like it really looks impressive on the field. Like it's good on film. It's good on the screen. Moving on to our next running back. We have DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. This kid in the same sort of a situation in terms of his fantasy draft capital that you're going to have to spend to Cam Akers and the next player that we're going to say. They're all kind of being taken around the same spot. RB28, 53rd overall in terms of his ADP. The Lions have never really committed to having Kerryon Johnson be the guy. As much as everybody wanted to free Kerryon Johnson the last couple of years, they have not committed to giving him the ball a ton. Now you have another situation where they may not be committed to giving him the ball. They have spent some draft capital on acquiring this kid, DeAndre Swift, out of Georgia. How do you feel about DeAndre Swift? Do you think he's going to take the job immediately from somebody like Kerryon? Because he's being drafted almost twice as high. He's in the low 50s. Kerryon Johnson, about 95 in terms of his ADP right now. So what are your thoughts on this running back situation in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, the Lions have shown for a while that they're donkeys with their usage. They were giving so many guys who are awful work ahead of Kerryon Johnson, including LeGarrette Blount and so many other guys that just didn't deserve it. Clearly, they never thought Kerryon Johnson was going to be a 15 to 20 touch per game guy for them, even though they spent a ton of draft capital on him. I don't think they'll see DeAndre Swift that way either. DeAndre Swift, kind of a cross, I think, between Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara in a best case scenario, where he's very explosive running and he catches the ball really, really well out of the backfield. I like DeAndre Swift's talent. By the way, Google his dad because he's a trainer he's a trainer here in Philly. Dude is jacked.
Who can bench more? Okay, wait. Side note here. Who can bench more, Marcus Stroman's dad or DeAndre Swift's dad?
I would take DeAndre Swift's dad against like anyone. Dude is a monster.
He's massive.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I'm certainly out on DeAndre Swift in the 6th or 7th round on a team which I'm not particularly high on, with Kerryon Johnson, still very talented there. And you can get Kerryon Johnson. I'm not sure where you had his ADP. I've seen him go 9th, 10th, even as late as the 11th round at times. And yeah, it's not exciting, but I think the risk reward for Kerryon Johnson down there in those double-digit rounds is way better than opportunity cost in the 6th or 7th for Swift.
His high stakes ADP right now is, I don't know, I'd say somewhere around 93 based on the chart that I've got up on the screen. Mm-hmm. For Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift around 53. And they've both been pretty static, with a little wider range right now on Kerryon Johnson recently since July 13th on his high and his low. Like, people are now reaching a little bit more for Kerryon Johnson as opposed to DeAndre Swift, who doesn't have as wide a spread on his picks. He's basically going from like 45 to 56, 58. The next player that we have to talk about, and the final rookie that we have to talk about, is J.K. Dobbins. Maybe the best situation in terms of offense and scheme of any rookie running back, but he's got Mark Ingram sitting in front of him. He's got the Gus bus, maybe should be sitting behind him, but whoever knows in terms of what they're thinking inside that running back room. He's clearly more talented than Gus, but can he leapfrog Mark Ingram, who did exceptionally well last year and is better in the pass game than most people give him credit for over the last few years, Mark Ingram? Can J.K. Dobbins take over the full load, or let's say the majority of running back snaps in Baltimore? He is currently going as the 30th running back off the board, so less risk than any of the other four that we talked about. The upside is just massive with the offense that he's in. High scoring, very explosive, a lot of holes for him to run through. 59th overall is his ADP. Mark Ingram, he is in the last year of his contract or no?
Yep.
And he is on the wrong side of 30? Yes?
Yep.
You don't like old guys, Adam. How do you feel about Dobbins versus Ingram?
Yeah, I think they will use both of them, and I think they'll sprinkle in Gus and maybe even Justice Hill as well. The thing is, if you, from a projection standpoint, if you use all the Ravens rates from last year, well, you get so many rushing attempts between Lamar and all these running backs. And yeah, maybe you can see J.K. Dobbins working out in that scenario. I just think the Ravens, they were third in plays per game last year, first in average time of possession by an outrageous 1.5 minutes per game, 3.8 touchdowns per game last year, easily the most in the league. There's going to be a regression, I think, on this offense just naturally. Do they have enough plays, enough running back carries, enough touchdowns to go around to feed all these guys? Now, certainly possible. And J.K. Dobbins, I think they weren't preparing to take a running back. They just thought he was too good of a value to pass on where he was in the draft. So yeah, I think we'll see him kind of mix and match with Mark Ingram to start the year. Gus Edwards maybe picking up some garbage time and some breather back time. But yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins to start 10 to 12 carries or so. The problem is Lamar Jackson just doesn't check down to running backs. And so if he has a check down to his running back, he'd rather just run. And I think that's a more efficient play for the Ravens anyway. So now you're stripping out a lot of pass game work from J.K. Dobbins, and that scares me too. I want all my running backs to be catching passes. So I get that he's going later than Swift and Akers, and I'm not particularly high on any of these guys, but I think it makes sense for some degree, especially in full PPR. In more touchdown heavy leagues, I'm more okay with J.K. Dobbins.
And dynasty leagues, I'd probably be more okay with somebody like J.K. Dobbins, where you're going to make an investment on the future, but won't see as much of a return this year as well. Speaking of other types of leagues, if you're playing in a transactional league, it's going to be very difficult to pick which week J.K. Dobbins is going to go off. However, you're drafting him as an RB3, possibly an RB4, depending on how hyper or anti-fragile you go. I would not want to have him as my RB1, at least not early in the season. However, if something happens to Mark Ingram, his ADP is going to absolutely skyrocket. As you can see on the screen right now, they're being kind of selected around the same place. It's an either or. They've got a very similar ADP as opposed to the other running backs that we've spoken about on both this video and the must-have running backs, where the secondary guy is 40, 50, 60 picks later or after the primary running back or the more preferred running back in terms of ADP. Right now, these guys being drafted pretty identically, but if one of them gets injured, the other one's going to skyrocket from the RB30 range, probably up into the RB10 range, RB10 to 15 range. So if you want to buy on the hopes that they're going to take the job, you have to do it now, because if you wait and draft them later in the season, I want to wait and see. Once you've waited and seen, that opportunity is already gone.
Yeah. Wait and see is for sick fish.
That's a good way to end the video. Thank you guys very much for joining. Once again, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click those links in the comment section down below. You can find more of Adam's work over on establishtherun.com, and you can use promo code SMIZLIFE at checkout for 10% off of any one of their products. Thank you guys for joining. I'll catch you later. Bye.
He's a legend.